Hello everyone. This week I'm going to talk about something that I very, very rarely talk about. So I have two eating disorders. So the first one I'm going to talk about is called ARFID. ARFID stands for Avoidant Restrictive Food Intake Disorder. People with ARFID are what most people would classically call a picky eater. We all don't like certain foods, so what's the problem? Where's the disorder, right? So where it actually becomes a disorder is where it begins to impact your nutritional intake. The problem with ARFID is that you eventually get narrowed down to a very small set of foods, and your body can't get the nutrition that it needs from those foods. So your body tries to eat more of it to get more nutrition out of it, but it's just not there. It thinks that you're not getting enough food, but what's happening is that you're not getting any nutrition. For example, I don't like pizza. I never have, and I probably never will. And I can read the comments already. Well, listen up. The less I eat, the more there is for you, so who wins here, really? Anyway, so for me, most of the problem is textural. I don't like semi-amorphous, kinda not solid, not liquid type foods. It's not usually a taste thing, it's usually a texture thing. In my particular case, I'm also a super taster, so I taste things a little differently than most other people do. So for me, it really can be both a texture and flavor problem. A lot of people with this disorder tend to eat basically nothing but like chicken nuggets when they go out. And this can be very, very awkward for us when we're in a social setting involving food, particularly like a restaurant. Because people like me have to try to customize things in a way that you're really not supposed to be able to do it, and you know, order off the kids menu sometimes and things like that, and it's super embarrassing for all of us, and nobody wants to be in that situation, and everybody treats you like you're some sort of alien. And like trying to explain to someone I don't like most foods is kind of a weird conversation to have with them. Because let's be real, I'm obviously not starving here. So like clearly I eat food. And that brings us to my second disorder. I also have binge eating disorder. So binge eating is basically eating a lot of food all at once and not really even like trying to taste the food. Which for me is tied into the ARFID stuff, because like I don't want to be eating most foods, so I may as well get through it quickly. So in my previous video on my PTSD, there'll be a card, I think up here somewhere, a little eye or something. But either way, there'll definitely be a link in the description. I mentioned that my parents eventually decided to stop feeding me. I was too picky to be bothered with, I guess, and they bought food, but it wasn't like food that was nutritionally useful to me. They just didn't really care if I was doing okay with it. This was partly born out of the frustration of my ARFID. They didn't know what to try to feed me, and I wouldn't eat anything they would give me anyway. In particular, I remember an instance where my mother decided I was going to eat grilled cheese every day for lunch for a week, and I just did not eat lunch for a week because I was crying at the idea of having to eat melted cheese and toast, and I could not handle that. That was just not something I could do without feeling sick, without, yeah, I don't know. So I was not allowed to use the stove, I was not allowed to cook for myself, and basically there was nothing in the house made for me specifically. So what ended up happening was that basically if I couldn't microwave it, and if I couldn't eat it just out of the box, it wasn't something that I could eat. Now, the safest time in my house was when my parents were asleep. I'd be up at like 4 in the morning at like age 14, which you really, really should not do. And I'd be sneaking down to the basement to eat a bag of cookies, a whole thing of cookies. And that was how I survived. And obviously cookies are not particularly nutritious, so I just got into the pattern of very quickly wolfing down foods that I could actually handle eating as quickly as possible just to get through it. For me, the experience of eating was not pleasurable. It was not something that was done for fun, it was not something that was done to socialize, it was something that I had to do to survive, and yeah. When I started having my own income and the ability to actually buy my own food, I took to buying comfort foods, which again are not great nutritionally, and I was a child, I didn't know any better. So I would just eat until I felt full, which would be a long time and very low nutrition, and I just had a really terrible relationship with food for a very long time. So basically, my parents took a person who was naturally restrictive with their foods and tried to force me to eat foods that I was not comfortable with. As an adult, I've revisited a lot of these foods that I've had a lot of trouble with over the years in a very safe and controlled way, and I've managed to eat foods that I would never have dreamt that I would be able to eat back then. For example, I hated pancakes until I made them myself, and I found that the act of actually making the food yourself makes it so much easier to process as a texture, because you're somewhat in control of it, you're seeing it happening, it's becoming real as it's getting presented to you. It's not like just plopped in front of you and now you have to eat this and here's this pressure, eat it, eat it, eat it, what's wrong with you? Just eat it. And yeah. And some of my earliest panic attacks that I didn't know were panic attacks were food related. I was 16 and I was at a friend's house, and they spontaneously decided that they wanted to go to a Japanese hibachi place. Now, for those of you who don't know, hibachi is basically the chef cooks the food in front of you and you eat it with the chef being able to see you eating it. And I've never had Japanese food, I have no idea what I'm about to go try to eat, I have no idea but I knew enough to know that that was something I was gonna have to work up to if I ever could handle doing it. And the next thing I know, and I didn't know what was happening, I was having a panic attack. I was in the bathroom, I felt sick, I felt horrible, I didn't feel like going out, and it was a convenient excuse because then, I didn't have to go out because I was sick. So this has just been a constant source of anxiety for me. I don't do well when someone puts food in front of me and expects me to be able to eat it, and I can't. And it sounds really stupid because you would think I would have developed the ability to just shove it down and get through it and whatever, but that is just not the way my brain works with this. So for me, anytime I have to go to a new restaurant, I have to build up to it for weeks. I have to look at the menu and kind of get a sense for what I can actually order there without too many customizations, so I'm not that weird person that gets, chicken parm, no parm. And I have to feel safe with the people that I'm around, knowing that I have this problem. And I also have to feel like I'm involved in it. I don't want to be the person at the table who's not eating anything, because that also makes me the weird person. For me, it's just always been a source of performance anxiety. I feel like I have to perform this task that I don't feel comfortable with in front of people and will be judged on that performance by those people. And so with something like pizza, where most people are really into pizza or just kind of blah about it, and then there's me, explain why you don't like pizza. Well, sure, let me just open up about all the things that have led me to this point in my life where I don't like pizza. Here we go. Oh, that was too dark for this conversation? Sorry, you asked. So being already restricted on what foods I could actually handle eating actually made it very, very easy to select an eating lifestyle that fit my needs. My significant other is vegan, and for me, I've only ever had like 4 kinds of meat in my life. I never really liked most cheese because ugh. And I was not into eggs or milk or anything like that. So when you eliminate all of those things, pretty much all that's left is vegan food. And then there's the moral and social ideas behind it that I also support, because I believe that we should be doing the least damage that we possibly can on this planet while promoting our own existence. So all the food that I make at home right now that I actually eat day to day is vegan, or at least vegetarian. But when I go out to a restaurant, that is the only time where I allow myself to have a broader range of options. I don't have to eat vegan when I go out to a restaurant, and that's actually kind of okay because it's an exception. I don't do this every day. And with my particular issues, it's probably a good idea to not further limit what foods I can actually handle eating. And unfortunately, where I live, there are not a lot of vegan options. So yeah, it takes me a while to get comfortable with people, with eating in front of other people. It's just a thing I don't feel totally comfortable explaining to people, especially ones I've just met. And it sucks, because eating is a very social activity in our culture. And it's stupid, because everyone has food preferences. Some people hate broccoli and will never love broccoli, and yeah, okay, maybe someone will judge them for that, but it just feels different with something that's generally accepted, like a pizza, where you will be mocked for that in any setting. And they don't know why you don't like pizza, and they're not trying to hurt me by telling me that I should like pizza. They're trying to include me in the pizza fandom, and I'm all about fandoms. Pretty much the only part of the pizza I will probably ever like is the bread, and that's not a pizza anymore. It's weird to me that people get so deeply offended when you don't like a food that they like. Because if you don't like a food that they also don't like, they're like, yeah, of course, broccoli's gross. But when you don't like something they like, they take it as a personal insult against their preference. They treat it as if you're telling them they're wrong for liking that thing. I'm always like, no, pizza sounds great. I'm glad you like it. I do not. We are separate people. It does not matter if we do not agree on this. I just always feel, especially when I'm out with people I haven't been out eating with before, that I'm being watched the whole time and judged for what I eat, what I don't, how weird I am, because it is a way that we do evaluate people socially, and I think that's kind of weird, but I do understand that that is the social construct for whatever reason and for better or worse. And I've come a long way with this. My significant other has been incredibly patient with me, incredibly understanding, and incredibly helpful in getting me to try new things in a way that I feel safe and comfortable doing, and I'm getting there. You know, I try to try something new once a week, and I actually had been planning on potentially making a segment on this channel about that, you know, just, a month's worth of new foods or something. But the idea of being on camera with it is even worse to me, and maybe that's something I should work up to, but it's not something I feel safe or comfortable doing right now. I just figured that it was easier for me to say all of this once in a video, put it together, make it make sense to me as well, and whenever someone asks me, hey, why don't you like pizza, I can send them a link. I've come to accept that I'm probably always going to be the weird one of the group who doesn't like anything. I'm always going to be the picky eater. But I don't think that my entire value as a person or as a member of the social circle should be based on that. I like to think that I offer more than the food that I eat. So I guess if I have to try to make a point out of this video, it's that you should be patient and understanding of people who don't like a lot of foods or don't eat the same foods that you do, because who knows what their issues are. And if you're trying to be their friend, then you should try to understand them as they exist and not try to change them. Even if you think it's for the better, it may not be something that they can do. So thank you all for stopping by. I'll be back again next week with another video that I hope you'll find interesting. Until then, stay curious.